All right. This is the Brands and Brews Marketing Podcast. My name is Jesse McFarland. I'm the host of the show. Today we have a special guest. His name is Jer Flanagan. And Jer, that's short for Gerald, right?
Gerard, actually, yeah.
Gerard. See, I
Gerard.
still didn't know. I thought figured yeah, Gerard. Okay. So because I met you through LinkedIn, I thought your name was Gur because it just G.
Yeah, every American Jesse calls me Gur, and
Gur.
it's funny. We used to do in my old corporate job, we did training with this English company for like an email automation software. Training
Mhm.
was ongoing for like 4 or 5 weeks with our team, and the lady doing it was calling me Gur, and out of
Mm.
politeness, I didn't correct her on the first training session.
Oh
So
boy.
6 weeks had gone on, and I still hadn't corrected her. And the lads in my team, they got a great kick out of this. So this has gone on for like 2 months straight.
Yes, I could see that happening. Right on. Well, if you haven't told or you can't tell by the accent, Jared is from Ireland, and I'm a McFarland, so I'm technically an Irish American. So we figured Guinness was going to be the beer of choice for both of us. Um, I'm already going to assume that I'm going to totally screw this up on how to properly drink a Guinness. So let's go ahead and start. We're going to show what we brought here. And look, I already know I screwed up here because I have a bottle. So
It's
was that
okay.
already a taboo? What am I doing wrong? But just showing you, I have a bottle and a typical normal pint glass.
Yeah, so it's a look. Guinness is a cultural phenomenon in Ireland, and it's just so much more than actually drinking it. Everyone has their special way of drinking it in terms of the different nuances, but generally there's the perfect way of pouring a pint of Guinness, which is a non-negotiable for most people. Now, I will say a can of Guinness is not ideal, for a
Hmm.
number of reasons, but it's not too bad. The best way of drinking a can of Guinness, at least I like it, is chill the glass in the freezer beforehand, and
Mhm.
it's got to be a Guinness glass.
Got
If
it.
you handed me a Guinness in a glass that's not a Guinness glass, I would hand it back to you, and I would probably walk out the door. No joke. Now
Got it.
with the can, see, it's got to be quick. Okay, so it's got to be quick. You get your can, a couple of taps at the top,
I can't tap.
crack it. Okay, and this is the key now. So it's just got to literally be a drop in, and let it
Oh boy.
go all the way up. And you can see how the pint and the Guinness and the cream rises to the top. And then you got to let it settle. So this is a crucial part of drinking and pouring a pint of Guinness, is letting it settle. You should never ever drink a pint of Guinness as it's doing this, as it's actually
Right.
changing colour. You got to settle. The problem with a can is that it doesn't actually fill it up right to the top and above the pint glass, is where you want the cream to rise for that, absolute picturesque pint of Guinness. So what they do in a pub, and the perfect way of pouring a pint in a pub, is that they pour it to about this, set the pint down, let it settle, and then they top it up. And then generally the cream would be like overflowing at the top. And that is literally how you pour a pint of Guinness. Now that is, I mean,
Can I do the same thing with a bottle?
you probably could. I've never actually drank Guinness from a
We're doing
bottle.
it.
I don't know what it's like, but go for it. Yeah, that's not bad.
Oh, I knew I was going to do that. Just a little bit on the floor. No biggie.
Yeah, too bad. Yeah, you got
It's
a
it's a
big
little
head.
dark. It's darker than yours.
You got a big head there. So mine is
Yeah.
just like kind of settling nicely, and you see the kind of
Dang
cream
it.
is kind of nice at the top, but not a bad effort. Bottles of Guinness in Ireland were huge about 50, 60 years ago, before
Yeah.
kind of draft gas pumps came in, and
Yeah.
when alcohol was really cheap. People used to drink bottles of Guinness when they were sick. They actually used to give it to kids when they were sick as well, because there was such an iron level in a pint of Guinness.
Hmm.
That's how backwards we were as a country then. We've moved on
Right.
slightly. And you can only drink Guinness when you're 12 and over now, which is a
Jeez.
joke.
That's
But given that we're
amazing.
on a marketing podcast, everything that I said to you, the cynics will say that it has absolutely no relevance to how a pint of Guinness tastes. But I would say that's bullshit.
Right.
I mean, it is absolutely true. But it's how they've marketed. It's how they've stayed relevant as a brand in Ireland for literally the last 200 years.
Right. Yeah. What's with the why nitrogen?
Just makes it cooler,
Yeah.
makes it flow better, and it kind of preserves the head, like a perfect head. What they call
Hmm.
it is domage, so it's like this kind of slang. Yeah, that's you. Oh wow, that is a terrible head.
Yeah. Look at that. It's all
Yeah,
bubbly. It's not.
too many
Yeah. It's not
bubbles.
that
Yeah,
typical. Right. I
no, it's not good.
totally screwed this up. Oh
That's
well.
not a bad. That's not a bad pint of Guinness for a can, now, if I must say.
Yeah.
You want to avoid air bubbles
Right.
within the top of it, and in a pub, ideally, if the head is just like nicely coming over the edge, that's a sure sign that it's a really fresh, good pint of Guinness, and that the pipes, which are really important, the actual pipes that deliver the Guinness from barrel to pint glass, are clean and are being regularly cleaned as well.
Yeah. I would say probably at least when I was hitting the bars a lot, um, Guinness was mostly drank with a car bomb. So do you have a car? Do you know what an Irish car bomb is?
I do, but I only ever found out about what an Irish car bomb was when I went to and I spent time in America for summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be quite controversial now in Ireland.
In Ireland, we don't, or in America, we obviously don't care. But
So
yes,
what does it make up? What's it made up
I
of?
was, so it's obviously it's like a half glass of whiskey or a half glass of Guinness, and then it's like a shot of Jameson, and then a little bit of Bailey's. I can't remember how much Bailey, like an Irish
Okay.
or like an Irish liqueur. Yeah,
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 and
that
then
does
you
sound like.
slam it.
Oh
Yeah,
wow, yeah,
yeah,
that sounds like a bomb. Yeah, I've never had one to be honest with you, but yeah,
yeah.
that sounds pretty
And then
heavy.
when it hits, like it really, it's like a half when you pound it, it's like it's belching time, big time, because it's like
How many of those would you have like in a night? Surely not many.
well, I had a group of friends where we were all pretty hardcore, so we would probably start with like at least three.
Oh
So,
wow.
and that was the beginning of the night. Yeah. I'm glad those days are behind me.
You lost count after that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was just the start. Yeah.
We
So
better have a drink of this now before it gets stale.
yeah.
So,
I'm not even gonna show you mine. It's well, okay, here it is. It's a disaster.
oh wow. Anyway, cheers.
Yeah.
Sláinte.
Yeah. Thanks for joining. All right. Thanks for that. And I'm gonna practice that. And then I am gonna get it out of cans next time. My wife I told my wife to pick up some Guinness, and I wasn't clear that I wanted cans.
Ah, blame the
And
wife.
so
Yeah.
yeah. But what do you do, right? So
Mm. Yeah.
it was a valiant effort. I met Jer through LinkedIn actually. So I think it was just kind of an organic. Um, that's how that's how I organically found you, as someone like um, uh, you're very active on LinkedIn, as am I. We both do some our own personal branding, and then when you do personal branding, you interact, engage with other people within the network there. And I really started to notice that Jer engages with the same people that I engage with, and so I started engaging with him. He started engaging back with me, and then at some point, Jer uh, did a very brilliant strategy, which is kind of like what we're going to talk about here as well. You did an outreach through me as well, to kind of sell your services. And I thought it was a beautiful tactic, and it clearly worked because we had already been engaging on LinkedIn. I'd already started admiring what he does very well. And then just at the right timing, he did his low, very soft pitch, more of like, "Hey, let's chat when you have some time" type of pitch, and it worked brilliantly. And I hired Jared. And so yeah, so that's how we kind of met organically, and I thought it was a brilliant strategy. So we're definitely going to talk about that today. So we're going to talk about personal branding and LinkedIn and outreach and how you can tie those together. uh, but first, let's talk about your background a little bit and your road to becoming marketer, basically.
Yeah, so it's been relatively I wouldn't say too mental. I actually I was always into writing, loved writing, and I started out my career as actually a sports journalist. So big into sports. I know you are too. I know you're too, Jesse. Um, and I did my undergrad in journalism in university, and then I started working for a newspaper, local newspaper. Did a bit of broadcast journalism as well, and I did that for about 4 or 5 years. And then just coming up to COVID, kind of the year before COVID, I always knew that I wasn't going to be working in journalism my whole life because it's a tough gig, long hours, pay is pretty shit. And I just felt that the media industry, or like the print media industry in particular, was kind of going in a you know not in a good direction. And it was only kind of going downhill. So always was interested in marketing, and I felt that my skills as a journalist were very adaptable and scalable into the world of
Right.
marketing. So then just before COVID, coincidentally, the local university here at our home announced a new part-time master's degree in digital marketing, and I literally only came across it 2 weeks before it was about to start. And ironically, I actually read about it in the paper and applied to get into it. Didn't think I wanted to do it because it was just coming at me so quick. Obviously, I didn't know COVID was going to hit and the place was going to go into lockdown about 3 months later. But just had a case of the efforts one day, and I decided I'd do it. And it was a 2-year course. Graduated. Funnily enough, the CEO of the largest sports retailer in Ireland was actually in my class doing the masters as well. So I got to know him pretty well, and ended up then working for that company before I even got to finish my masters, which I did finish. And that introduced me then into digital marketing. So I started working in the online department for a big sports retailer, and working in content and SEO. So started in content, then started moving into the more technical SEO aspect of it. Grew the blog from like 1 million to 13 million impressions in the space of about 16 months. And then I suppose I always had
Nice.
an aspiration to be an entrepreneur or have my own business and whatnot. And started playing around on LinkedIn, tried to build up a personal brand without any kind of real direction. And then I came across kind of ghostwriting and LinkedIn lead gen and ventured into that. And then that's kind of how I met you.
Mhm.
Liked your content, always really liked your SEO content. Just started engaging with you very, very casually. And yeah, kind of here we are now today. So over the course of about 6-7 years, I went from journalism to SEO into kind of ghostwriting.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. Let's talk about personal branding specifically on LinkedIn. I started personal branding like I don't know how many years ago, probably 2 or 3 years ago, at least consistently. It started with me just not knowing what the hell I was doing. Just like my whole goal was just to like, just post crap. And then I started to understand like the more I engage with other people, the better I would, my posts would, the more engagement I would get from my own posts. Eventually, like I really started to discover at least what worked for me with personal branding was the networking part of it. Like to actually meet with people, like after you engage with them for a while and they engage back, that to have a conversation. And because you never know, like especially if you're an entrepreneur, for me, that's what would actually lead into some sort of return. Is I would meet with somebody and just as a casual conversation, hey, we've engaged with each other 100 times on LinkedIn already. Why don't we just talk through, a video chat?
Mhm.
And a lot of times, uh, those could turn into an opportunity either with the person I was engaging with, or they would say, "Hey, I have a friend that needs your services," and I would do the same thing, right? So that's what worked for me, and I started to understand. Okay, um, that's that's what would work for me. That's would be like my strategy is more to
Mm.
network. But
And
eventually, like
were you
I
doing
started.
content as well, Jesse, at the same time when you were doing that, or
What's that?
were you doing content too, or were you just focusing on engagement at the time?
I was doing content too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was doing more of like, my ultimate goal was like, to be known as the SEO guy, right?
Mm.
And I would actually refer to myself that a lot in my content as like the SEO guy. And then when I would engage with someone and someone would say, "Hey, it's Jesse, the SEO guy," and I'm like, "Yes, I'm doing my job," right? Um, Eventually, more and more SEO people got involved in LinkedIn, and it's just like um, it's just a very, very crowded space.
Hmm.
And then through my own algorithm, everyone that's in my network now is this SEO people. So I kind of feel like I need to get out of that, and maybe you can help me figure out what I need to do there. But yeah, let's talk about the value of personal branding from your point of view on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's funny. Like it's similar to your journey. Like my personal branding was definitely a huge part of that, and the success was engagement at the start too. I didn't really know when I started posting on LinkedIn, and if I could go back now, I obviously would do different. But when I first started posting, I was like you, I was posting on a few different random bits. I was kind of writing about SEO a lot because that's kind of where I had like my social proof and that kind of stuff. Um, but I think in my head I didn't really want to become an SEO guy on LinkedIn. I wanted to become a LinkedIn ghostwriter or LinkedIn lead gen. So I knew that I had a bit of trust and a bit of credibility that I could use to help build up my contacts and build up my engagement from the SEO. And then after I did that, posting a bit of content and just engaging with all like the big SEO people like you guys and just kind of getting involved in that community, I then started just kind of subconsciously writing a bit more about ghostwriting and LinkedIn lead gen and just trying to shift my brand from an SEO content guy to more of a kind of a LinkedIn brand building kind of guy. Now that I like there wasn't any huge, massive, detailed strategy over this. It was just a very kind of general, slow, casual shift in my content and in my commenting that I was doing. Because at the same time, I was still working a full time job
Mhm.
in the corporate world, so I didn't have a huge amount of time to be kind of giving it to it, and I wasn't in any rush either. And then ultimately, as it happened, 6, 7 months down the line, the same people that I started engaging with, like just casually chatting, commenting on their posts, trying to get them to reciprocate on mine. I ended up just having started conversations with these people. Like you said, I used to reach out to people and be like, "Yo, we've been commenting on our posts for like 3 or 4 months now. It's a bit awkward if we don't actually maybe talk and get to know get to know each other." So,
Yeah.
ended up having a lot of real conversations with people like you. Ended up getting a couple of good clients while I started working with while I was still running my full job. So I had two ghostwriting clients and a full time job. So I was kind of living a hectic life, and I wasn't actively trying to get more clients. But the more kind of conversations that I was having and people that I was meeting, the more opportunities were coming up. And then ultimately that basically led to me, taking the plunge and going for full time about 8 or 9 months ago. So ultimately, like the lesson there in personal branding is, and it's very similar to SEO, as you know, put the time and effort in at the start and do it consistently over time, and you're going to see results from it. Yes, you might get results early. You might get the seismic impact of a campaign at the start, but the long term goals and the real benefits will really start to show 5, 6, 7 months along if you can be consistent and if you can go in the right direction. You don't want to be going off in the trying to go after people that you're not going to really be working with or ideally working with. So that's kind of ultimately my view of personal branding and how I think uh, you can be successful with it.
Right. Let's talk about ghostwriting. So actually, if you wouldn't mind, just for the audience, explaining like what it is, and then kind of the benefits of it, and then I think I'm curious too. I know I hate two part and three-part questions, but anyway, the last part too is like, you know, is it um, is it okay to do ghostwriting by LinkedIn standards? Is
I
it
think you're
frowned
going to get.
upon?
I think you're going to get me in trouble. Well, technically, I think by the LinkedIn policy, you shouldn't have anyone else using your profile.
Okay.
Uh, pretty sure. So, yeah, hands up now. You're after criminalizing me now, Jesse. But
There's plenty of people on LinkedIn that say, "Hey," and they're influencers that say that's what they do is I'm a ghostwriter, right? On
yeah,
LinkedIn. So maybe they don't actually say like what they that actually do, but they'll actually put those terms together. So yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. So ultimately, what I do is I manage the personal LinkedIn pages for CEOs and business owners of companies, generally of like 11 employees, 11 to like 50 employees, primarily in the USA. The majority of my clients are the USA. I do have a client in Ireland, actually, in Cork City, in Ireland, and the rest are American. And yeah, I write all their content. I pretty much become their voice on LinkedIn. So take away all the time and effort that they would need to put into like build a personal brand. I do their outreach for some of them. I do their inbox management, their engagement, their lead magnets. So it's ultimately I sell it as I become their CMO of LinkedIn ultimately,
Hmm.
and become their voice. And it's something that's kind of in my job as a journalist. I used to interview people like you'd interview 10, 20 people every single week, and then you would write the story on the interview. I'm still ultimately doing that in my ghostwriting career now. What I do for the content is I interview my clients every single week. We have like a 60-minute call, and we just talk about different content ideas, and I pick their brain, I get their thoughts, I get their experience, and then I kind of write content that would appeal to their ICP. So ultimately, like what I was doing as a journalist is very similar to what I'm actually doing now as a ghostwriter. It's just obviously a bit more complex, and pays a good bit better too.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet it does. And then the need for it is, I think it's the value of it is tremendous, especially like for a business owner or CEO that understands that the building a brand, it's not just building the brand of your business, but building the face of your
Mm-hmm.
business is very, very beneficial. But what business owner, what CEO has time to actually do that themselves, right?
Yeah.
So having a ghostwriter or a team, a strategy team to help you with that is tremendous. Just from the value of time by itself is worth it, and then having someone that knows what they're doing, knows very comfortable with LinkedIn, understands LinkedIn, knows how to build a brand on LinkedIn. That's just added value on top of time. And then to go on top of that, which we'll shift into next, is incorporating not just the personal branding but the outreach as well.
Hmm.
So talk a little bit more about your outreach strategy and how it combines with LinkedIn, and yeah, just go from there.
Yeah, I will. I did want to ask you just before we moved on to outreach. You were personal branding really as a fitness coach, weren't you? Long before personal branding and fitness
Oh yeah.
influencing actually became a thing. What was that like? Because that was like that was nearly pre-internet time when you were doing that.
Yeah, that's funny that you said that. Yeah, so uh, I was actually probably a way bigger influencer when I was a personal trainer. Just because that was my introduction to digital marketing. I was on social media and I was doing YouTube videos, and then I would do a YouTube video, and then like the next day I'd have 100,000 views.
Wow.
Uh, and really what it came down to is like I did it for athletes, specifically football. Okay, American football athletes, because I had a bunch of that I trained, and I had some really good ones that were like at the high school and collegiate level. And I would show the drills that we were doing and stuff like that. So like I just kind of, and this is all by accident. I didn't have a strategy of like, oh, I'm going to be because I didn't have a marketing mind yet. I just had a fitness
Yeah.
mind yet. Um, that I just turned my side into where I thought I was kind of doing fitness for everyone, but it was really like everyone that was engaged with it was either kids that are football players or dads specifically that had a kid training for football, right? And then maybe other trainers as well asking me questions. Um, but I did that all accidental. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. So yeah, and it was a combination of YouTube and probably Facebook at that time, but it was mostly like the return was mostly YouTube, which was
Yeah,
kind of insane.
that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, yeah. God, you were like way ahead of your time.
Yeah, and the problem was I was an idiot and I didn't continue it, right? Like I was like I wanted to learn. My goal was like it was all that was all by accident. My goal was to become a marketing professional,
Mm,
and I thought I was still a fitness guy. But what I didn't understand was I was doing both at that time, right? I was doing something extremely well that most marketers couldn't even do. Um, but I thought I just didn't think I had any marketing skills, and I needed to, learn from an agency and go that route. So that's why I quit it all and went that direction. If I were to do it over again, I would just stay in my lane, um, and because I had such a jump on so many others too.
yeah.
Um, and I also got into the other thing too. I got into blogging really early as well.
Mm,
And so I would do a blog and I would do a blog and then the next day I would have over like 100 subscribers, from a
wow.
blog post. Um, so yeah, it was just it was all accidental and the timing was probably right too. That was a big part of it. I just didn't have a lot of competition and all I was doing was providing valuable content that people liked. But at the same time, I didn't understand I was actually doing marketing and I was actually doing it very effectively.
Well, man, that leads us perfectly on to outreach, because it's like the basis of my outreach is all on uh, providing value, and that's where the success is. Look, there's two sides of outreach on LinkedIn. There's warm outreach and there's cold outreach, and warm outreach is obviously an awful lot more effective. Cold outreach is very difficult. It is still effective and it can still work, but it's not as easy as using warm outreach. So in terms of the warm outreach, what I'm doing now with a lot of my clients is that we're creating an awful lot of lead magnets. And like, your lead magnets as a fitness coach were these tutorial videos you were doing or whatnot. And ultimately, it's a small, very easily consumable piece of content that shows your ICP how they are actually going to solve one of their biggest pain points. And it's ultimately, it's you just giving away your trade secrets, giving away your expertise, and just letting people know that you are this, trustworthy source of a service. And a lot of people say, like, and some of the people that are working with the prospects always say to me, like, I don't really want to be giving away my secrets and my techniques and my tips. And I often say to them, look, I am telling you, there is a huge chance that this is not unique to you. There is so many other people that knows this technique. As much as you like to think that, you're the only way you can do it, it's not true. That's not true. You're not selling the skill, you're selling the implementation. Basically, it's you doing that. So how-to guides, you know, kind of Loom videos, walkthrough. For example, I'm working with like a Microsoft SQL Server performance tuner right now, and he's been creating an awful lot of lead magnets just around like these sample queries that like CIOs and CTOs can just take away, implement, and they can get a really good reading and performance reading of how their SQL Server performs at any given time. Just a really simple, impactful piece of content that starts a conversation, um, creates a bit of trust between you and the prospect, and then obviously makes you stand out from the crowd, because the people you're going to be going after, the chances are there's going to be probably 100 other people that are going to be chasing these every single week as well. So you need to try and differentiate yourself and your brand as someone who is going to give a bit more before they actually ask to get anything back. Now, there's also cold outreach. It does work. There are people, and I always tell people, there are people that are ready to buy at all times. It's about finding them and qualifying them. And that can be difficult, and that can take an awful lot of testing. For example, with one of my kind of digital PR clients right now, we're actually getting an awful lot of success with tradespeople, people in the trade industry in Ireland. And I think why we believe it's actually getting a lot of success, and our outreach is very direct. I mean, it's literally we're just straight pitching these people, and we think that it's working because they're obviously tradespeople. They don't really want to be spending a lot of time online. They don't want to be engaging in any kind of bullshit conversations. They're quite busy, so they just want to hear it direct. They want to hear how it's going to benefit them, and they want to see a bit of trust as well and a bit of proof how it works. And this
Right.
this client in particular has some really good case studies with his prospects. So it's the cold outreach has to be, if you're going to do it, you need to find people that are actually really qualified, and that takes time to actually dig them out, and it takes a bit of testing. With your lead magnets, then you can actually start your outreach giving the lead magnets first, building out your lead list, finding your ICP. What I like to do, and I find the best way of actually starting the conversation with people on LinkedIn, is actually engage with one of their posts first. So on LinkedIn Sales Navigator, filter your lead list by posted on LinkedIn first. That shows they're active. Wait until they're posting. Leave a kind of thoughtful comment on it. Leave an insightful comment on it, just so they can see your comment. They'll see your page. They'll probably go onto your profile, and when they do, then you can then start a kind of conversation and keep it kind of very casual. Now, it's a longer term approach, and this is what I would stress with outreach. Try and remove the idea of getting instant results. Look at it on a monthly basis. So pick out 300 to 400 leads at the start of a month, nurture them at the start of the month, and then try and maybe get them on a call at the end of the month, and judge your performance and your KPIs by the end of the month. Maybe 2 months, depends on your sales cycle. That's the way I'd go. Take a longer term approach to it, just like as we said, SEO, and try to avoid just pitch slapping to everyone who might fit in your ICP when really they probably don't.
Yeah. I have a experience with both tactics, and cold route outreach is obviously probably more common because it's easier to get started just by blasting email. Now, whether or not you're actually doing a good strategy where you're actually targeting your ICP and hopefully an audience that's ready to buy, that's another thing, right? But um, the the problems I've always had with cold outreach, even when I thought we're doing it really, really well, where we're targeting a very direct or very specific ICP, and the lists are really good and the messaging is good, I can get a lot of leads that way. I've been successful with some partners in the past that helped me with a lot of leads. But I would say all my worst clients I probably ever had were from cold outreach. Where just something wasn't quite there in the beginning of the relationship. Whereas a warm lead approach, maybe the volume of leads isn't as high. It takes a little bit longer, right? But we're starting that very first conversation like we know each other, like the trust has already been established. Instead of meeting with somebody, I have this need now. Through cold outreach, we're meeting now, and then we're going to build trust along the way. Hopefully, that's not as successful as having that trust already established from the very first call. And it's a big difference when it comes to the quality of leads, and then ultimately, if they become a customer, the quality of the customer as well. So that's just something I've learned probably the hard way of the two different tactics.
And I would say on that's where like the content side comes in to its own, and the long term content, in terms of like if you're consistently posting for 60 to 150 days, 120 to 150 days, and you're being quite direct in terms of people you're talking to, and that as well. And that's something I would recommend for people starting off. Is I would tell them, I'm not telling them to niche down in their business, but I would tell them just to be a bit more direct in terms of talking to their ICP on a regular basis in their content. As in, if you're writing content to founders of X business, you reference founder of X business in your content. You reference the results for founders of X business in your content, because people see that, and the LinkedIn algorithm picks up on that text, and it does show it to the right amount of people. But the beauty of the content is that if you can, connect with people, and you're not in any rush to try and get them on the call, just connect with them, start posting content, and they're going to see that over time. And 3, 4, 5 months down the line, if you want to make a conversation with them and drop into their DMs and try and get something going, it's a hell of a lot easier than them only having accepted your connection request 2 days ago,
right?
And they can just smell the pitch slap coming. So it automatically looks bad. I would also say, and I would also recommend, and it doesn't work with every service, but I would recommend people to try and get some sort of guarantee within their offer. It helps you stand out from the crowd on LinkedIn, because particularly with what I do, LinkedIn lead gen and ghostwriting, it's like SEO, Jesse. It's a saturated industry. I still get people pitching me about ghostwriting in my own inbox. as I'm sure you do about SEO in your inbox. So how to stand out from the crowd is utilizing a guarantee of some sort. I offer generally a guarantee of like signing 3 clients within 150 days, or I'll work for free until you do. Now, this is obviously beneficial for me because I only work at a limited amount of number of clients at the time, so I can be selective with who I work with. And
Right.
I only work with people who I know I'll be able to actually kind of deliver results with. So I'm not saying this is a one size fits all approach, but if you can come up with some kind of smart guarantee just to build that bit of trust there, just to make sure that the service or the prospect um trust you that bit more, or ensures that you're not just going to take the money and run away with it. SEO obviously is going to be difficult. Digital PR is very easy. One of my digital PR clients offers a guarantee of at least 10 media placements for one singular campaign. So nice little smart guarantee. It's an easy enough to pull off, and the client knows that they're going to get some value for the money, and you're not just going to head for the hills once they get that first invoice.
Yeah. No, that's a very, very strong offer, and having a strong offer is definitely key, probably in any marketing strategy at this point, or digital marketing strategy at this point. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you have any recommendations? We'll kind of end it on this section, at least, on recommendations for any tools specifically, or is it just changing so much like it is in SEO that recommending a tool is cool for like to mention on LinkedIn for like one day and it'll be outdated in a month from now?
It's not too bad to be honest. My tool stack is very simple. It's very basic. It's nowhere near as the ghostwriting game is nowhere near as technical as what you guys do in SEO. So I use LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It's $99 a month. It's not the cheapest for people who might only be starting off on their journey, but I would highly recommend it. In terms of my automation software, I use Expandy. It's $99 a month as well. That just helps me to set up automated campaigns, automated replies for my lead magnets and builder campaigns. I find it very effective. I've never got banned from using it. None of my clients have ever got banned, which is really important because
Right.
automation softwares shouldn't be allowed, aren't being allowed. I would recommend UseAware for engagement. It's basically like a software you can upload your client profiles and your profiles and do all your commenting from the one. So you can create lists of, say, your fellow creators, and lists of your ICP, and lists of other big creators with large followings, and then you can just comment on them from the one platform very, very
Oh,
quickly
nice.
over a period of time. So I'd highly recommend that to people for just an efficiency point of view. I use Clio plugin on LinkedIn. It's a very simple way of kind of writing good posts. You can view how you're writing the post in mobile format, tablet format, desktop format. You can also go onto a person's page and see their top performing posts. So if you want to get some ideas from like really good creators, it's really, really simple. It's a free plugin that's really, really good. And then in terms of my other like lead list softwares, I use Apollo. I find
Mm.
Apollo quite good at times. Not nowhere near as good as LinkedIn Sales Navigator in terms of the quality of the leads that you find. And I'm just starting to play with Clay right now, which is, again, it's kind of a leadless AI automated builder. And I'm hoping to kind of migrate now from Apollo to Clay. So my tech stack is quite simple. Now they do add up as well. Like, my biggest business expense is all my softwares.
Mm.
So as you'll probably know as well.
Nice. Very cool. All right. Well, we're going to do some rapid fire questions here and then end the show. So first question, in case it's not Guinness, what's your favorite beer?
I'm not a huge beer drinker. Yeah, I'm not a huge beer
Jeez.
drinker. So I'm really Irish. When I'm in Ireland, I will only drink Guinness, and I'm not a huge alcohol drinker either. So I don't drink that
Yeah.
often because I play a lot of sport. Love my Guinness. I only really drink Guinness. If they don't have Guinness in a pub, I'll probably drink Bulmers, which is Irish cider, which is quite nice.
Mm.
And I also like gin and tonic. However, if I go on holidays to like Spain or Portugal, I love the like ice cold Spanish beers, which often are ironically made in the UK, but like, you don't
Right.
care.
Got it. Favorite thing to do in Ireland?
So I play Gaelic football. It's a national sport. As you see this football back here.
Yeah, it's like it looks like a volleyball.
Yeah, it looks like a volleyball, but a lot heavier.
Okay.
Big leather balls, size 5. Gaelic football is our national sport.
Okay.
It's like a hybrid of very similar to Aussie rules. We just use a circular ball. It's very physical, very athletic based, and very parochial too. So, for example, I can only play for the area that I was born. So
Mm.
that makes it really, really passionate. They say it's the second religion in Ireland. It's actually, I would say, the number one religion in Ireland right now. It has bypassed the Catholic Church.
Wow, that's amazing. um, so where or what should an American do, or where they should visit in Ireland? So if I was to go to Ireland, what would you recommend I do?
Okay, so all Americans think that the only place in Ireland is Dublin. So
Yeah,
I would recommend you to go to anywhere but Dublin. Okay,
got
Dublin
it.
is good. There's some good things to do in Dublin. I live on the west coast in a place called County Mayo. We have this really, really cool, scenic coast drive called the Wild Atlantic Way, which kind of starts from northwest to north or southwest. Would take you like probably 2 or 3 days to drive, but it takes in some of the most spectacular scenery you're ever going to see. Cliffs, mountains,
Yeah,
valleys, and some of the best little cultural towns in Ireland. You get the best pints of Guinness, you get the best food, get the best crack, the best music. So I'd recommend to do that. If you are going to Dublin, you can't make it down to the West Coast, do the Guinness Storehouse tour, absolutely brilliant tour in the heart of Dublin City. And I would also recommend going to Croke Park, which is the national stadium for our sport. It's an 80,000 seater
wow.
stadium, huge stadium in Dublin. Gets packed out every year for the big games. And yeah, it's funny. It is a huge historical aspect to it too. One of the stands, where people watch the game, was built using the rubble from the 1916 Eastern Rising when Ireland
Mm,
revolted against the British and got our
right.
independence. So pretty cool like that.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, I love those suggestions. What are three things you should not do while posting on LinkedIn?
Number one, try to speak to everyone. Definitely. Yes, I understand it's you want to kind of general and grow, but I'd recommend to go to speak to your audience consistently all the
Yeah.
time. Um, Number two, let me think. Oh God, you caught me on the hop here now. I should have been prepared. Um, don't go in if you're just starting to post out on LinkedIn. Do not rush into posting 5 to 6 to 7 times a week. A lot of LinkedIn gurus will tell you that you need to do that. If you start doing that and go from 0 to 100 miles an hour, you will burn yourself out after 3 months. You'll have no
Mm-hmm.
results. You'll be sick of it, and you'll be like, right, this is not working. I'm not doing it again. So find the pace. 1 to 2 times a week is perfect at the start. Get used to it, get a feel for it, see what works, and then spend a bit more time maybe creating lead magnets or something like that. So don't rush into the 5, 6, 7 days a week while posting on LinkedIn. Number three, on that too, spend more time giving value than trying to be salesy. So give,
Yeah.
as opposed to asking, asking, asking.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on that one. Like, I have this, I do a little consulting with my clients, all my clients, and then the clients that are interested, like, building a personal brand on LinkedIn, they'll go, nobody engages with me, and I'm like, okay, when's the last time you commented on somebody else's
Yeah,
post? LinkedIn is a social media, and if you're not being social, why would someone be social with you, right?
well
So
said.
yeah, don't post and ghosts, right?
Yeah, yeah, and unfortunately, it takes time as well. It can be a pain in the ass commenting because
Yeah,
it does take time. But 30 minutes a day. If you're commuting to work, do some commenting there. Commuting home,
yeah,
20 minutes before you go to bed. If you break it down, it's fine.
nice. Okay. What are three things you shouldn't do while email outreach? Last one.
Try to avoid being salesy. Um, you never really works unless you're going with a really, really solid direct pitch with an unbelievable offer and a guarantee. Sales pitches don't really work. Clunky emails, no one reads them. Avoid big blocks of text. Keep your sentences short, snappy, and emails need to be 4 or 5 sentences in length max.
Mm,
Because you know yourself, when you get a big email, you're like, oh God, I'm not reading this. No way.
right.
Number three, in terms of your email outreach, try and be general. Or sorry, let me rephrase that. Try and be very particular in terms of who you're actually targeting. Try and do a bit more research into the lead list you're creating, and be a bit more quality on the outreach as opposed to quantity. Everyone jumps into like creating these like 5,000 people email lists. Spend a bit of time actually digging into that and qualifying the people, and then reaching out to them, because it'll save you an awful lot of time with blasting out emails to people who don't want to see them, and getting blacklisted and getting a bad brand and all that kind of stuff. So quality over quantity.
Awesome. Well, Jer, I appreciate you joining the show. How can people find you? I assume main way is LinkedIn.
Main way is LinkedIn. Yeah, Ger Flanagan is my name, ironically, on LinkedIn. So you'll literally find me there. I am a LinkedIn lead generator and ghostwriter, and I don't have a website, so it'll be just LinkedIn
Yeah.
in general that you'll find me. So yeah, drop into my DMs, or you'll probably see me in Jesse's comments.
Yep. You can see it in my comments, and you could also I have I'll put this on the Brands and Brews website, and we'll definitely have your LinkedIn on there as well. All right, Jer. Thanks for joining this episode. Had a great time with you. And yeah, let's go ahead and sign off. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Jesse.